Houghton, and many more.
And if you look at the city, is remnants of decaying industrial and riotous times. So, you know, from the riots that happened back in the late 60s to the recession that's happened with automotive companies during the 70s, unfortunately, Detroit got the worst part of it. Everything just started to decay. You can see these buildings that we still have there. They're amazing buildings, but, you know, this is what we have to live with. The mentality of the machines, considering the assembly lines of the automotive companies, you know, we've gotten our inspiration from that decay. We're all pretty interested in synthesizers and drum machines and all that because it has a lot to do with our background in machines with automotive factories. So we just kind of put a soul in that machine, and that's how techno became what it is today.
Start coming to the Motor City. Truth is truth. I was sent here from God. I'm a prophet. You keep your focus, man. Detroit ain't no joke. This is the Motor City, man.
We're talking about the question of boundaries in Detroit, which is a major factor for anybody living here. The main boundary in Detroit, everyone in the city recognizes, is 8 Mile Road. Eight Mile is the northern city limit between the city of Detroit and generally what's known as the suburbs. But it's only one of many boundaries that you find in and around the city. As you head out through East Detroit toward the very upper middle class and even ruling class suburb of Grosse Pointe, at which point what was a kind of depopulated industrial or even post-industrial environment suddenly turns into a kind of inflated version of an American suburb or small town. Turning around, coming the other way, you have the sudden experience of everything that was taken for granted about that social fabric disappearing entirely. The way I approach that is to think of that experience as basically painful, negative, but something that anyone living in Detroit has to deal with and has to acknowledge, that the city is rifted with borders and boundaries. had the experience of giving a lecture on the topic of techno, and the reactions were absolutely across, I mean, a wide range of reactions, some of which were kind of phobic. One person felt that in linking this music, which I think is utopian and transformative, to an experience of social negativity, the kind of gaps between terrains, the bad social history of Detroit over the last 20 or 30 years, the depopulation of the city, that I was putting the city down. And I basically said, no, I'm trying to show how this music is addressing those conditions, and at the same time is proposing an alternative. But that alternative wasn't recognizable within the cultural codes that this particular respondent had. And then there was a kind of investment, why are you trying to tell us something about our community that we don't recognize? So the reception has everything to do with the way that communities structure their own value systems. And there's an element of the outside in techno. It's recognized in Europe. It's not entirely even understood to exist here.
Where was I on the screen? That's right. I love you. I got you. There you are. Bam. Your mama. We never felt like we were really a part of this city. But at the same time, the resentment and the anger sort of developed this sort of underground or demented passion for Detroit and for all that it stood for. Because we decided, we hate you so much, we're going to change you. We're going to turn you out. We're going to freak you. We're going to fuck you in your ass.
What did you?
No, we decided to lay her over and fuck her proper. We're making love to her right now, because she's a much nicer lady than that. And we realized that as time went on. And we realized that she wasn't stupid. She was just a little bit lost. So she needed to be let out the woods, And we sort of lost our anger and we gained our passion.
This is a typical example of Detroit. It's booming, just beautiful structure. It was booming when I was a kid, and now 20 years later, it's just totally fucked up. Every time I pass by this building, I'd think, one day this could be mine. I'd renovate it. I'd make it into something just amazing, and just from seeing it, not that it's, being a big shot by owning it or whatever, but just because the artistry that's gone into this building to develop the architecture on the inside is ridiculous. It's like Detroit's Grand Central Station, but, this is what Detroit thinks of Grand Central Station. I use this building as inspiration. It comes into my mind when I'm at the keyboards, at the drum machines, everything to create. This, just the beauty, I could check it out. The lines might be bass lines, and the curves might be string lines, and the columns may have more to do with drum beats, the intricacy of the grooves that's within the music. I think it comes within the spirit, Detroit and its music, no matter whatever music that we do, there's always some type of spirit in it, especially with techno, because we're dealing with machines, with synthesizers. We have to put some of ourselves into it. And by ourselves, I'm not just meaning about note values, I'm meaning spirit, I'm meaning heart. I'm talking about, that little oomph that needs to go into it to make it powerful, to make it, definably me. Definably Detroit.
For me, describing what Detroit techno is to people over the years, it's the same. Since the first day I've tried to explain to someone, say here in the States, I say to them, the music that I do or that we do in Detroit is electronic based. It's extremely soulful. There's something in the music that you feel. Nobody has to sit down and tell you and define to you, okay, do you feel something in this music? You can feel it. I think techno is taken an extremely wrong turn because of the fact that a lot of these companies, all of these companies, they're making these boxes, these techno boxes. You push one key and there's a techno track on it. Now everybody named Mama wants to do a techno track, and it's kind of it's the worst thing that can ever happen to this music. The new album I just completed is not a completely different album. I can't do that. I'm not an innovator. You know, I just carry the torch, and I ain't trying to. You know, I'm trying not to trip and fall. I'm just trying to do the music. Trying to do what I think is good dance music. And it doesn't have to be dance music. Good electronic music. I'm sorry, because I don't try to sit in the studio and specifically do music for the dance floor or anything like that. I just do whatever comes to heart and mind. Nobody's here doing this music. They're not trying to change the world. Because music is a universal language. I mean, I found this out through my travels all over the place. That one of the common things that we have as human beings is music. And the fact that you don't have to have any lyrics or anything, it transcends all races, barriers, or anything. So I wouldn't even just say it's just specific to Detroit techno. When I do a track, I'm not trying to like change the world or try to make any type of statement. I'm just trying to do some good music.
Down by the river, souls are rocking. On the east side, souls are stirring. In the music of Detroit, in the memories of the past coming forward today, we see new horizons, hear new sounds, reaching for the real dreams, the real hopes of sharing peace and power to those who stayed, who are coming back to Motown then, Motown now, Motown forever.
Welcome to Techno Town. This is a celebration of Detroit music and creativity that is long overdue. This music brings together everyone, and it's the reason that we did this. But there is someone that is behind this gift. The city of Detroit. And our city gave this to you as a gift because they believe in you and they want you to come back and join what is being created here by our wonderful artists. And I would like you to thank them for this gift of 78 free performances on 4 stages for 3 days in the heart of our city.
To listen to people like Electrifying Mojo on the radio, you know what I mean, who inspired us, who played everything from Devo to James Brown to Parliament Funkadelic to whatever, you know what I mean? And it was, you know, he used to come on with 15-minute interludes with spaceships and stuff like that. So I knew something was going on futuristically with the music in Detroit, because it wasn't just your average, you know, music that I was hearing. I was hearing stuff that, you know, people wasn't even thinking about listening to, you know? And I would define Detroit techno more of emotions, you know, more based around the prodigies of our environment, you know what I mean? You know, making music on the bedroom floor, you know, not worrying about a big studio or a record company to invest into the project, you know what I mean? It was just more or less of just, you know, making it happen and gaining the respect. When, you know, you taking the cassette tape that you made that day, taking it down to the club and letting the people listen to it. You know what I mean? That was what it was all about at that time.
How long do you think it would take them to divide? Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be shamed. Let not mine enemies triumph over me. He is the light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?
I went to school for 2 years. I went to school like in Tennessee, and I used to make trips every weekend to come back to go to the club called Music Institute, and it was like an 8-hour trip. I used to come back like every other weekend to come experience what I was missing down in school, you know what I mean? It was Derek May and D. Wynn playing on a Friday night, and then the Saturday nights were Shay Demir and Alton Miller. Friday's theme was more of the futuristic, you know, Detroit techno, hardcore scene. Saturdays were more dedicated around house, disco, vocals, and stuff like that. You know, I was a faithful Friday night guy. Yeah, I was there, you know. I've been a DJ first and foremost because I've been DJing for 15 years, so I've always took the approach of educating the people about music that they normally wouldn't dance to. You know what I mean? I'm not a DJ who plays the hits. I'm not a DJ who plays the crowd favorites all the time, you know what I mean? My thing is manipulating people's minds to make them dance to something that they normally wouldn't dance to at all. You know what I mean? Taking them on a musical journey.
One of the major things that makes Detroit techno what it is, it's a kind of utopian fantasy of promise, of wholeness or completion, and of being able to, you know, and of innovation. It's not just a reflection of something bad, put it that way. It's also an embodiment of certain ideals of community that exist and have continued to exist all the way through.
Detroit techno, we didn't have samplers in the beginning, so you had to play the music and only program the drum machine. You know, techno is music playing, like Knights of the Jaguar just came out. It's people playing, learn how to play the keyboard, and expressing your feelings within your fingers instead of sampling. And that's the difference from us back in the day. We didn't have a sampler. Well, kids now have a sampler. The Chicago kids had a 4/4, and 4/4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. The kick drum, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, Detroit cats was do top, do top, do top, do top, do top, top, do top, and that was our drum. So that separated us from Chicago and New York. And Todd Terry was like really the forefathers of the sampling, cut and paste stuff. So that kept us different because it was so much funk. What we was doing back in the day, so you had George Clinton, you had the Kraftwerk doing that shit. Clinton standing outside the elevator, opens the elevator door, Clinton steps in and there's Kraftwerk inside the elevator already. These tight-ass German dudes, very cool, very well-dressed, very well-mannered groomed, but he doesn't realize they're Kraftwerk at the time. Wet, sleazy, slimy Clinton, funky as he may be. Elevator goes up to the 99th floor. Along the ride, it gets stuck. And that's where the concept comes from. Because I just could imagine these dudes all in this elevator. Aircon goes off. It's nasty in there, man. Kraftwerk pulls out their little pocket calculator. Clinton's like, whoa, you know, animation, funk, whatever, it happens. And that was kind of like always my idealism of this music, you know. It was the seriousness of it, and it was the aloof, soulful, very reckless side, which is the black element, the soulful element, and the tight, sophisticated, very just like calculated moment. That's the Kraftwerk side. And in between there, we fit. You know, we're like right in the middle of all of that. We took the best elements of both. The rest of that shit out there is a money-making business. I don't even know where that shit come from. You know, I mean, it's cool that cats, you know, doing what they're doing, but I mean, how can you be from Switzerland and say this is techno, and then come in my face and say what you doing is not techno? You know, how can you tell me? You know, and you from Switzerland, and before you were born, you were still in your daddy dick, and I'm still here DJing and making music. You know what I'm saying? So how can you tell me? Capitalism, marketing, business, money is what makes the world go round. And I mean the world, in all points of the world. At some point it becomes completely commercial anyway, like it or not. At some point I will no longer be cool. You know, at some point I will no longer be, kids will no longer be interested in talking to me, shaking my hand, or hearing me play records. At some point you will be doing other things with your life. And such as that camera will someday be old as fuck and won't work. You know, life is life, and rhythm is rhythm.
More like our spiritual kind of deep vibe. It started out almost as an orchestra. A lot of string sounds, very percussive, real kind of dreamy, you know. And over the years, it just progressed into, I guess, even more of a percussive sound.
Yeah. As we got older, you know, we musically started really venturing more into trying to evoke emotion with, you know, string sounds, voice sounds, and trying to really incorporate, you know, the what we think is a more orchestra sounding thing into dance music, you know, into what everybody else calls, you know, techno.
Because I toured with a jazz band locally, then nationally I toured with Bob James and jazz keyboardists. So I was always picking up with those cats who were doing at night, watching their little nuances, the way they threw things back and forth with their fingers, and listening to the drum go into swing rhythms and back into some straight rhythms.
So that kind of influence, that's kind of what I brought into Octagon. More like a finesse type of vibe.
As us being brothers, you know, it really helped us out a lot. We're used to being together and used to not getting in each other's way and stuff like that.
So he can start a thought and I can finish a process,
exactly.
You know. So it's kind of like, it started out too, like our Barry White's Love Unlimited Orchestra. So it's kind of like mentality behind it. Funky, stringy, kind of dreamy, you know, and percussive.
My idea of what soul music is or was is completely different than what my mother may have thought soul music is or was. So I completely take that idea and I reinvent it. I sort of morph it. You know what I mean? I come up with my own I come up with my own invention of it, and that's really kind of what happened between us and the music itself. We didn't plan on doing this, man. This was definitely an accident.
First key moment I would say would be going to Chicago. Me and Derek driving there, and I cut on the radio, and I hear one of my tracks. We listen to like Hot Mix 5, BMX, Farley, and all them, mixing up, you know, all kind of music. It was the first time I put out my record and talked to some people in Chicago, and I gave them my record, and I heard every DJ play it. That was real magical. It was inspiration. The whole musical scene is going to keep growing. I think this festival is great to all the music that we've done already, and then we can get some younger cats out of it and get some more of the urban kids involved in with the music we do, you know, because when we first started, especially in the college days, a lot of urban kids were really into the music. Then hip-hop took over, and we kind of lost out, you know, as far as people knowing that we were involved in this music, you know. And now, you know, I'm hoping that it's a good combination, because there's a lot of soul that can come from this music, and it doesn't just have to be hip-hop or R&B. It can grow through techno, through Detroit techno, and inspire people.
The integrity of techno music will always be, we always will carry that, because we believe that, and I speak of all the people here, we've always believed, man, that we possess the most soul, and that's the secret of the music. That's the simple secret. I mean, you can make as much, you can get as technical as you want, you can get as many computers as you want, but the simple element that makes it all come together is simple soul. And if you don't have it, then you ain't gonna get it. Around the world, there's many different concepts of techno music. And I think that's really cool. I think that's the really cool part, because people want to experiment. They want to try to figure it out. They're not trying to figure out this puzzle, this soul puzzle from Detroit. I think they're more interested in just expressing themselves and saying, okay, I can do it too. But then there's a certain amount of, I think, of okay, all right, enough bullshit. Now here's some real shit, just to balance out all the bullshit. Something here that none of us know exactly where this will go. I don't know what or where this will end up. We are in a city where up until 1 week ago have cared less about its forefathers or the inventors or the music itself. They gave a shit. They didn't give a shit. Here we are now, man, right in the middle of commercial town USA. You know, putting down vibes and energy and attitude that probably will not be seen here again until next year, until we do it again next year. This is amazing. This is historic. This is a moment in time that I will never, ever forget. I am so glad to be here. I'm like blown away, man. Really. Wow.
Detroit is not glam and glitz.
No.
You know, it's a very hardcore kind of industrial type of vibe. And usually people like that seem to be a lot more rooted, kind of down to earth, and you know, I don't know. I think it's just real rooted people. You know, it's not a glitz and glam town. You know.
Can you imagine a world without sound? Without sound. Without sound. Without rhythm. There'd be no life. Without soul. Can you imagine a world without music? We'd be lost. Without rhythm. Can you imagine a world without soul? Without music, there'd be no life. Without house, we'd just die. We'd be lost. Slowly die. Can you imagine a world without sound? Without music? Without house? Techno. It's kinda cool, huh? There'd be no life. All these words and shit. Without Derek, Kevin, and Juan, there'd be no techno. Can you imagine a world without love? Without sex? There'd be no life. We just die. Slowly die. We'd be lost. We wither away. Without strings of life. There'd be no life. Can you imagine a world without rhythm? Without force? Without rhythm? Soul? Without sound? Without rhythm, soul, and sound, music. Can you imagine the world without house, techno, strings of life? Rolling. There'd be no life. 303, 909, 808. Without force field, there'd be no life. Self-evidence.